Once again to the Movies and Stuff show. My name is Dan, and joining me is the man who has a problem with women yelling, Abe.
Usually they're only yelling, "That's it."
This week we are chatting about the 1996 horror comedy The Frighteners. This film, directed by some guy named Peter Jackson and starring some guy named Michael J. Fox, tells the story of an architect who is able to communicate with ghosts after he survives a traumatic car crash. He uses this power to be a con man and take people's money, but he soon finds himself battling with a ghostly creature that is killing dozens of people. The Frighteners has a great comedic tone to it, some awesome comedy elements. Performance is really funny, but I think it's very much a horror film and a thriller, especially towards the end. There's quite a few intense parts that just kind of get your blood pumping. It really has a sensational end sequence. You know, I saw this film in theaters. I remember absolutely loving it. What about you, Abe? When did you see this film, and what did you think about it?
I didn't see it in the theater. I saw it on VHS. I can still remember the spooky hologram cover. They had on the
that's right. Yeah.
Pretty fun. I was not crazy about it. I thought it was okay when I first saw it. I thought it was okay, solidly okay.
You know, and it's been a while since I've watched this movie, so you know that's what we do here. We rewatch movies to see if they hold up. I just think, you know, after this rewatch, it's time for me to add this into my October rotation. I absolutely love it. Great performances, Michael J. Fox, Jeffrey Combs, Peter Dobson. You know, there's a good gore factor to it. It's not a gory film, if that makes any sense, but there's a good gore factor to it. The story moves along quickly, and it doesn't get bogged down too much. I got a couple little quibbles with the plot, but you know, after 20 years, special effects still impressed me overall. I really loved it. What about you this time around, Abe? Did you come around and say I love this movie now?
Yeah, I liked it a lot more this time. A lot more. The Peter Jackson's sensibility, I can follow it along a little bit better now. I think I'm a little more mature. But yeah, the special effects are really good too. I mean, it's still got that 90s. The texture on the CGI sometimes is a little wonky, but that's just 90s CGI. But other than that, yeah, some of the special effects are terrific.
All right, you know what? Let's kind of break this down. We're going to use our handy dandy 5-point breakdown system, and we're going to go over some of the main parts. And the first part that I want to talk about is the acting of the film. And, you know, I mentioned this before, but some great acting here. Michael J. Fox has enough elements of that Marty McFly character to be endearing, but he also displays some really honest douchebaggery throughout. You know, he's a con man, for Christ's sakes. You know? You got Jake Busey looking all psycho killer Busey-like. I mean, he's just born to play a creep.
Yeah, right, yeah.
It was Contact as well. Busey was in it.
He's a suicide bomber.
He's a bad guy, you know? Dobson is hysterical, his mannerisms, his workout routines. You know, his voice is just absolutely ridiculous, and he's got the Elvis, he's alive, you know, and which is a great joke because Dobson played Elvis in Forrest Gump. You got a great cameo by Arlie Ermey in that graveyard, essentially playing Arlie Ermey from Full Metal Jacket. But I think this is the Jeffrey Combs show here. Was Combs your favorite performance here?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. He is just so out there in this. I love this guy. He is just riddled with fear and riddled with angst, but he's also violent and aggressive. It's a really interesting character and performance.
It's really just, it's crazy too, because he's playing this essentially this FBI agent that is called out to investigate these murders that are being done by a ghost, but no one knows that. And the name of the character is Dammers, right? Milton Dammers. And he's got this kind of like Adolf Hitler haircut. And you're right, he's jumpy. Yeah. In the same sense, he's intense. And he's capable of violence. The dude carries an Uzi in his coat.
Yes, he does.
You know? But
he's a far cry from Mulder.
But just a very funny performance and a little bit terrifying, just off kilter. It's something that you can see elements of Jeffrey Combs from Reanimator in there, but you can also see, Jeffrey Combs from, his Star Trek days in there as well. Like it's a really cool mix of terrifying, funny, and in a way, just a smart performance.
That's a good point. I didn't connect the dots, but I just did when you were talking. That's a really good point. Humor and menace, that's hard to pull off. To be funny and to be menacing at the same time. And he pulls that off. That's a really good point.
I mean, just when he's introduced, he comes in, and, and I made the joke earlier, he hears the screaming and it's like, I don't like it when women scream.
And the way he peeks into the room from the hallway and then shoots back. It's just
brilliant.
Very good.
So good. All right, point 2, I'm going to talk about favorite moments from this film. And I think many times the actors are only as good as the script that's put in front of them. And not to say that that's the case here, but there's some great dialogue in the script, especially with Dobson and Combs. I think my two favorite, when Combs says, "I am an asshole," with an Uzi. Just so good. And then Dobson, when he's at his own funeral and, someone's talking very positively about him, and he's like, he's right. He wouldn't lie. Not at a time like this. Such a good performance. Such a good performance there. And it's pulled off, perfectly. And I think another great kind of gag that's in there is when Fox is driving his car and he runs through Dobson's fence again and runs over the garden hose.
Oh, I love that. Yeah.
So what do you think? Do you have a favorite line or a favorite sequence from this film?
My favorite sequence really is the turning point of the film, I think, is when Michael J. Fox crosses over to the afterlife. And when Frank gets that machine gun and starts kicking ass. That's awesome. And at the same time, Jeffrey Combs is menacing Lucy.
Right.
Yeah, that's some good stuff. I really love it, how he's kicking ass against the Reaper.
And, it's funny, too, is I think at that point, there's still like 20 or 30 minutes left in the movie.
Yes, but that's the hinge of the movie right there.
It really is like almost, like this is what's going to, just kind of like keep you ready for that very suspenseful ending. Because there is, prior to that, there's a great escape scene where they're, escaping and they're running around and they're being chased by, death. And there's been a couple of close calls with Lucy almost getting killed. When they get to the hospital and Michael J. Fox starts seeing things as Jake Busey.
Yes.
It's some really good filmmaking right there.
Yeah, that's really good. I agree with that.
And I think, beautiful scenery. I mean, it's all filmed in New Zealand, of course. It looks beautiful, but they were able to kind of make this feel like small town USA in many ways.
Does it feel like small town USA?
It does. It does in many ways. But when you're looking out at some of the overhead shots and you see this giant like sprawling island, you kind of like, oh yeah, that's New Zealand.
Right. Yeah.
But when they're doing the in-town stuff, the in-person stuff, the cemetery, I kind of felt, the cemetery and at the police station and at the old house and in the sanitarium and stuff like that. I did feel that this guy has more of a small town to it. So, and you have this Michael J. Fox character he's as I mentioned earlier, he's not 100% on the level. He's making money by haunting houses and then having his with a little baggie with the ghost residue in it, and he
runs down the
garbage disposal. And then the character arc where he is crossing over, great sequence, and he's got the machine guns that he gets from Arlie Ermy and is just blasting away. And visually, that face of just like I was about to say Gary Busey, Jake Busey kind of melting down.
That tombstone, yes.
Ooh, horrifying stuff. Which I guess kind of brings me to point three, and I'm going to call this to Beetlejuice or not to Beetlejuice. That is the question. I don't know if it's Elfman's score that makes it feel like it has this Beetlejuice DNA in it, or if there's more to it. Like, this is almost more of like a grown-up version of Beetlejuice. What about you? Did you get any kind of like Beetlejuice vibe from this movie other than the score?
Other than the score. No, I think the score was the big part, really. I think that's the connecting factor that really makes it feel like it's Beetlejuice, because Elfman's very talented at doing one thing.
He does the Elfman score.
Right, yeah. And you can't fault him. I mean, how do you make a movie or how do you make a score that's outside of your abilities? I can totally appreciate that. But yeah, that's where I feel the connection too.
Not even the giant sandworm at the end?
Okay, well, yeah. That always makes me think of Dune. Sorry.
Yeah, no, good point. No, I do think that there were a lot of people that were saying that this was a failed Beetlejuice in a way because it didn't have as much of the comedy as Beetlejuice did. But I don't see the connection. I don't either.
People are always trying to link things together, just however they can.
It's its own movie. It's a Peter Jackson film. It's got elements of his earlier films in it, and it has even the scope, the grandeur of some of his future. I think he did a couple films after this. I think a couple small budget,
intimate films.
Intimate, So I mean, it's a Peter Jackson film. It's definitely not Tim Burton kind of wannabe. And I think a lot of people going into this just didn't understand like what it was going to be. Was it going to be a comedy? Was it going to be a horror film? The fact that it got pushed from October 31st to July 19th to go against Independence Day.
Statistical analysis. That's what they need.
People just, this comes out on Halloween. It's a huge hit. I feel that it's got a bigger chance. But
you're right on at the money, actually. This was Peter Jackson's introduction to a lot of Western audiences.
Yeah, totally.
And when he was in this vibe that he was in at this point in his career, he can be difficult to grasp, I guess. I'm thinking of the Dead Alives.
Yeah, sure. Yeah,
things like that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's hard to appreciate, what he did with those smaller films. Mm-hmm. I mean, Heavenly Creatures, that's what kind of got him on the map in the indie world, but still that's not mass public. This is mass public. Yeah. And what he went on to do, like I'm trying to like recall, were people excited over the fact it's like, well, Peter Jackson's going to do Lord of the Rings. It's like, oh, Peter Jackson that just did the Frighteners.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm trying to like put my headspace back into it. I think people were just excited to get a Lord of the Rings movie, but if I could remember in this time machine of the interwebs back then, if people were excited over Peter Jackson.
I don't recall anybody being excited about Peter Jackson, except for he made that brilliant move of making them shoot all three movies. So it just wouldn't get cut if it was a flop.
Right.
That's the only time I remember people saying Peter Jackson's smart.
Well, say what you will about Peter Jackson. He is smart.
No, I will. But he was still relatively unknown at the time.
Absolutely. But I mean, even with the Frighteners, he managed to get shoot in New Zealand. He managed to get final cut on the film. He got a $30 million budget to the Frighteners. The combined budget of all of his previous films, under $9 million.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Getting 3 times the amount of money to make like 3 or 4 movies, I think, prior to that. Mm-hmm. Combined, like $9 million. And one of those I'm just estimating because I don't know how much a New Zealand dollar's worth. It's $200,000 New Zealand dollars. I don't know. I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt there. I'm going to go a 1-to-1 ratio just for the sake of arguing. But hey, let's move on to point number 4, which would be the Jackson factor. If this movie comes out after Lord of the Rings, would it be considered a Peter Jackson masterpiece?
That's a good question. I say no. I say it's not a masterpiece. I say it's a good, solid movie. I'm still going to say, pound for pound, his masterpiece, even with Lord of the Rings, is Dead Alive. That is a brilliant movie. That's his masterpiece. This is still really good.
I think this movie comes out after Lord of the Rings First off, it's a huge hit.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
It's a blockbuster. If this comes out after, because people are gonna be like, "Hey, we're gonna go see this," and I think people will appreciate it because when did they start really appreciating this movie? It is after he did Lord of the Rings. I mean, it did quite well on home video. It did better on home video, but horror in general does better on home video.
Mm-hmm.
It's just kind of the nature of the industry. But I do think that if he puts this out instead of King Kong, yeah, as his movie after Lord of the Rings,
Big hit.
Huge hit.
And people love it.
But I wouldn't go as far as to, say that it would be considered one of his masterpieces. I do think it's going to be that trilogy is going to be what's considered as his, masterpiece. And I give you Dead Alive as well.
Okay.
But I mean, from an indie standpoint, Heavenly Creatures, man. And there was a nice little head nod to Heavenly Creatures, a couple of head nods to Heavenly Creatures in this movie.
Was there?
Yeah, I mean, well, the character Linsky, that was the name of the main character. The name of the actress in Heavenly Creatures.
That's cool.
And she was also in The Frighteners.
Mm.
And,
just a cameo? Or?
Yeah, like a small part in it. And the actress's name is Melanie Linsky. She was in she had a small part in this. And then also on the cover of the serial killer VHS that they're watching, that the Linskys are watching, has the two characters from Heavenly Creatures on the cover of that VHS about serial killers. Yeah,
that's clever. Yeah,
so,
that's good.
A couple good nods there that he did. All right, let's wrap this up. Point number 5, we're going to go to the plot. And I mentioned earlier, I think this film has a very solid plot. It flowed really well, had some great twists and turns. Here's my, I'm not going to say nitpicky aspects of it, but here's me just trying to break it down. Like, in the very beginning of the film, in the house,
yes,
you have this woman being attacked by this ghost. Right?
Yep.
That you find out she's, spoiler alert, I guess, partners with this ghost killing people.
Mm-hmm.
That scene makes no sense to me now. Why is the mother even still alive?
Yeah, that's the question I have.
Like
why
that whole thing. Why is mom still alive? Why is she being held up into this house? And why is the ghost beating her up and choking her? Unless they're into that.
Yeah, I was going to take it as foreplay. That's how I take it. Yeah.
That's all. There's that. And my other thing, and sensitive topic here, especially with you in Missouri, how the hell are cops just opening fire with all those people in a museum?
Yeah.
Like, there's like hundreds of people there, and cops are just blowing things away as if it's nothing. Like, seriously. Did Michael J. Fox have a gun? Did they have a ghost gun that they could see? I don't know. Why are they shooting at Michael J. Fox? He didn't even have a hoverboard to get away with.
Yeah.
Was he holding a sports almanac that they wanted? I don't know.
Could be it, yeah.
So those are a couple of like little things. The opening sequence though just really just boggles my mind. I don't know. I get it. He's trying to I guess what they're trying to do, and plus having the woman from E.T. To get herself. Oh, there's no way that she could be a bad guy.
Right. Just so sweet.
We were wrong.
Very much so. I don't have a problem with those two things. I actually, and I don't get this. People were complaining about the plot being so convoluted.
I don't see that.
I don't see that either. There's one twist. There's one twist in this whole plot.
And it works.
It does. It's a pretty straightforward story. I don't get the convoluted argument at all. Except for that teaser in the beginning.
Right.
It's just trying to throw us off the scent,
Right. And, there's you start to think, could it be her father that's doing it as opposed to, Gary Busey? You get a little bit of that, but it's not much. I think it's a straightforward plot. I think it's a good plot. I think it works really well. Yeah. But this film raises another question for me. So Frank's wife is in heaven. Right? He sees her in heaven.
Mm-hmm.
But now, if he falls in love with Lucy and lives the rest of his life with Lucy and then they die, I mean, does he have some explaining to do? She tells him, go live.
Yeah.
And then it's, another nitpicky thing is like, the last time you saw them, you were fighting, and he killed you in a car.
Yeah, I guess he does have some explaining to do. But, I mean, I don't want to get off on a whole tangent here, so I'll be quick. That always freaked me out when I was a kid about heaven.
Yeah,
it's like they float up to heaven. Oh, now they just don't give a shit about anything. They're happy. They're living in bliss. You are just going to suffer, and they don't care.
And they're their age, and you keep getting older. So by the time that you die at the age of 80, and you got this hot, like 20-something-year-old woman up there waiting for you in heaven, she's going to be like, no, it's cool. You know who's here? James Dean is here.
Yeah, right.
He still looks good.
Yeah. This just really raises a lot of questions.
I don't think we mentioned this before, so as I'm wrapping up, I'll mention it. It's produced by Robert Zemeckis.
Oh, Back to the Future connection.
Kind of did a couple of big films. So he was the one that, of course, pushed for Michael J. Fox. He was the only person that they, seriously considered for this. If he said no, they had a couple of backups, and I think Tom Cruise might have been one of them. I'm sure. At the time, Tom Cruise was, considered for every role. Him and Tom Hanks usually considered for every role. You got anything else to say about this great movie?
No, it is a lot of fun. I enjoy it. I like the flim flam man aspect of it. Because you're right, there is a connection between him a little bit and Marty McFly. Because Marty McFly is kind of a dickhead.
Totally.
And I can totally see in a different universe that Marty McFly would morph into a con man of sorts like this.
Totally could see it. Without that positive influence of Doc in his life.
Absolutely.
I think that there would be a chance that this is how Marty turns out. And you know what we're going to do in a couple of days is we're going to have Ray Linsky himself, actor Peter Dobson. He's going to swing by. He's going to chat with us about this film. Maybe we'll ask him a little bit about his thoughts on, Back to the Future and this film, and see if there's any overlap or connections. Because I could honestly say that there's more connection to Back to the Future in this film than there is to this film to Beetlejuice.
Oh, absolutely.
We'll say that. All right, you know what, people? Check this movie out. Put it into your Halloween rotation. We're going to close out another episode of the Movies and Stuff show. As I mentioned, check back in a couple of days. Actor Peter Dobson's going to join us. I can't wait. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to us on YouTube, head over to Facebook, like us on Facebook, get some exclusive content, information, contests, all this awesome stuff that we're doing there. Abe, I gotta go. A dog is running away with my face. Any final words?
I like it when they lie still like that.
Later.